shit's in the safe. Got me a spot out the way. Nigga just tryna be safe.
Let's get to the sports talk.
Chris Paul, what do you expect out of him this season?
I think he's a professional. He's always been a professional. I think he's going to go out there and for him, this is an opportunity to prove to other teams, like that's a big contract that he has. That's a lot per year, and there's a lot left on it. So his job is to go out there and show that he can still do quite a bit so that he can maybe make himself, tempting for another team to bring in, because that's a lot. And so I think for him, he's going to go out there and play a great brand of basketball. He's going to be the floor general like he always has, but it's just more to make himself more enticing for other teams.
But it seems to me that he would welcome the opportunity to actually go. He keeps saying, I just want to go hoop, which I know is a cliche. Yeah. Look at me like that. But you don't think he actually is going to want to play a little bit more basketball than he's been able to play in the last couple seasons?
I firmly believe that Chris Paul wants to win a championship, that Chris Paul wants to win. It's not going to happen in Oklahoma City.
Yes.
So ultimately, if you're at the end of your career and you have your money, you have your contract, this will probably be the last contract that he signs, right? Unless it's a short-term one or a small amount. He needs to get himself to a team that can give him an opportunity to compete in the playoffs. This is not one of them.
Yes, I just mean that the idea that he will have a different basketball floor to work on than he had the last.
Yeah, I think the thing is, we always focus on stat lines. Oh, his stats were this when they were off the floor and when he was. I don't think it's that much. Same thing we talk about Russell Westbrook. It's not the stats. It's the involvement. There's a difference between, I didn't get my numbers, and, man, I didn't do anything. I stood in the corner and I watched somebody else do stuff. And when you're Chris Paul and literally your entire basketball life, the ball has been in his hands, the main decision maker.
Like he's a floor general. Like, they have a solid starting five. They can get to the playoffs, but they're not going to do too much. But I feel like a team probably going to take a chance on Chris Paul's contract because what he could bring to a team. Because the way he could just control the floor and get guys open, it can make a big difference. But if nobody want to take that contract, OKC, they have a good team, but they don't have a championship team. Like, they have a solid five to get to the playoffs. It's just that team ain't go anywhere. Probably just the first round. That's about it. They do have a good team this year still. You just gotta wait to see how everything gonna turn out. Is they gonna make it to the playoffs? They do have a team that can get there. They still got some good players in that lineup. It's just like, it depends on how everything gonna go. Because the Western Conference is a tough conference. It's not a very easy to get in the playoffs. But they have a team that can get there, but it's going to be a dog fight to get in one of them seeds. There's a lot of good teams on the West. They're going to be fighting for playoff spots. That's why you have to get out to a good start this upcoming season. Because you get off to a slow start, you're going to be a little bit behind. It's going to be hard to get one of the spots and let somebody lose. Because they got very good on that side. They have a good team to get there, but they got to wait and see.
The main playmaker, the main engine that makes whatever team he's been on tick and go. It's hard to then just be a bystander.
Yeah, and this has been the big conversation about Russell Westbrook, right? Like, how are him and James Harden going to play together? You look at Chris Paul, who is, on his way to being a Hall of Fame point guard, and how much his numbers drop. And Russell, to me, has more of a kind of an explosive personality, more of an explosive game, where he can just get the ball and go, and everyone else is trying to play catch up. So that's going to be the number one conversation.
One thing I want to say about Oklahoma City is, this isn't a bad team. This is not the Cavs or the Wizards or like one of these.
Why are you
I'm
teams?
putting it in perspective for people to understand when I say it's not a bad team. This is a team when you talk about Chris Paul, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Danilo Gallinari, Steven Adams.
That is a great 10th place team.
In the West. In the East. In the East, that'd be a playoff.
And in the East, they are definitely a top 9 or 10 team.
They'd be a playoff team.
When you left Cleveland for Denver,
yes,
and it was not the situation you maybe envisioned for yourself,
yes,
in that year of your career,
yeah.
how did you deal with it?
I started coming to ESPN more and doing more segments here. That's what I started doing. That's what I started doing. Hello, everybody. I'm Richard Jefferson. Welcome to the Jump.
The year he was with the Nuggets, I remember seeing him in the lobby of the JW, and I was thinking, oh, is Richard coming in to do the Jump with us? And someone said, no, the Nuggets are...
Oh, I just said, they have a good team, but it's going to be very tough to get in the playoffs. They're going to put up a fight this season because they do have a good lineup. They have a good point guard. Chris Paul is a Hall of Fame point guard. Gallinari is a good forward. Adams is a solid center. Alexander is a good shooting guard. And they got Ferguson playing a small forward. That's a good starting five. But it's going to be very tough to even get into the Western Conference playoffs. We don't know how they're going to go. They might have a good year. Or may not, but I feel like they can. But it's going to be very tough to even get into one of them seeds.
And I said, what? I didn't know he was on the Nuggets. I thought he retired.
Well, you know what it was? It's because the Nuggets didn't make the postseason, and neither did I. So that's why it seemed weird.
But for the adjustment for you for the first month or two, particularly, how did you talk yourself into, hey, I'm playing basketball this year?
Well, it's different. Like, Chris Paul is going to be a starter.
Yeah.
He's going to, for me, I had already accepted that role of just being a veteran, helping the young guys. I actually had an opportunity around the trade deadline to go to a playoff team. But me personally, I had invested so much time in the Trey Lyles, the Jamal Murrays, the Gary Harrises, that I wanted to help see those young guys through. I wanted to help them make the playoffs. Even if it wasn't from on the court, it was more of just like a mentorship. And so I actually turned down a role to go to a playoff team because you invest that time. And I think Chris Paul now, even though he'll be on the court, he has an opportunity to really show people kind of in a different way than when we talk about Carmelo Anthony, right? Like, he can be that great player that can also invest in a lot of young players and help them rebuild. But we both know that he's a professional, but that's not where he wants to be at this point in time in his career.
I don't think it's where he wants to.
What?
Good job getting those young guys to the playoffs.
Yeah.
I don't think that's right.
I don't think it was my fault. Like I said, I wasn't on the court. I wasn't on the court.
I agree. I don't think it's where Chris Paul wants to end this season, but I see the advantages he sees with being there at the beginning of this season if he wants to do other things later.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports analysis,